Hello, ladies. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello. Blessings, blessings to you all. Blessings, blessings, blessings. Don't you love this music? If you're interested in wanting to know the slideshow, it's a what do you call it? It's a playlist I have on YouTube. So if you're interested in that, let me know. If you can see, you can tell I didn't even bother. Let me see. Should I get fancy? I didn't even bother with backgrounds. This is it. I'm in with Crystal at Crystal and Brian Welch's house. I'm blessed as a guest with them this week. And so I thank all of you for joining us. Thank you for being here with us. It is a beautiful, beautiful day to jump into his word. You're going to see me reading notes from my phone. So thank you all for your grace. It's fun. I have an amazing, amazing guest this morning. We have Dr. Deborah Gold with us, and many of you know and love her. Man, so exciting. Good morning, Deb. How are you?
I am great,
Isn't it
considering.
amazing? I'm going to bring you back on here with me. Good morning. Isn't this exciting? What a great day.
It is. And I am just thrilled to be here. And I'm thrilled to just look at your beautiful face this morning. I don't get to see it every morning.
I know
So
we get to do Shabbat tonight together. I'm excited about that. That's a blessing to spend that time together. You know, we have for those of you that are in the Ruta Cafe, or if some of you are here because of you were here for our first conference, releasing the biblical feminine. And if you'll remember, Dr. Deb was one of our speakers, and meeting this woman at the well. And I remember that we just listened to it as a flashback a couple weeks ago. We've listened to her. It was so amazing. Just re-listening to that, I'm like, oh wow, this is just good every time. Just process of what we're doing in our waiting season as we wait for him. And I think, Deb, do you kind of feel like we're at the well today a little bit?
Yes.
Yes,
For
yes. And
sure.
I think you're
I
gonna.
had I had no idea when you asked me a few weeks ago to do this week's portion of what all this week was going to entail. And so I'm like, oh, oh
Exactly.
my gosh, we're supposed to be standing on the mountain right now. And it's hard. The one thing from Bahar that I got was that it's easy when we're standing on top of the mountain to hear and follow through with what we know the Lord wants us to do.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're in the valley and you're walking through the wilderness, so to speak, in an unexpected and unknown territory, it's a little bit more difficult.
It is. So ladies, we're just going to be a little raw with you today. There's probably going to be a lot of tears. I didn't bother with mascara for that reason.
Right.
We last week, some of you may know, but we lost our mentor. Many of you, I know for us, I was adopted as a daughter. We feel Charles Stallsworth passed last Friday. Many of you saw pictures that they were in our home just days before, and he unexpectedly, we say, reached his vanishing point. He went to be with a father, and he was done with his assignment here, and we weren't ready. Deb, we're gonna have a lot of firsts. This morning was my first not getting the phone call or saying his daughter, you're gonna do great, and blessing me before he went on. So Miriam sent a picture and did that via text. I lost it, it's a lot of firsts. So thank you all for your grace as we probably cry through a lot of this, because we were so blessed, weren't we, Deb?
Oh gosh, yes, yes, yes. I'm gonna miss those twinkling blue eyes that always had like a little hint of mischievousness behind them, and that beautiful smile. And just every week on Shabbat and on the phone through the week, he was just always lifting you up and supporting everything you were doing, I was doing. Just he made you feel so special.
He sure did. We talk about he made you feel like you were the most special person in the room. When you were in front of
Right.
him, you were the most important thing. And I know when we were at the funeral, the memorial services, and at the graveside, I was thinking that I was looking around at the great teachers yourself. I know we had Rico Cortez was there, Ed Harris, but Holisa was there. I'm looking around at all these people, these great teachers in the word that he has spoken to their lives. He has put his hand on, And many of us were ministers before in our faith. We were ministers in other areas, but as he put his hand on each person, and I looked around and I thought, sometimes I felt like I was the little Sunday school teacher. I was sharing with Randy and Crystal this morning, here I am, the little Sunday school teacher, and he treated me as if I were like Rico, talking about ancient Near East perspectives. He's listening to me, took time out to listen, and whether it was our radio shows or whether it was anything we were doing, he was there to support for me. I feel like, oh gosh, he took the time out when he had so many other better teachings to listen to. I mean, he could sit and listen to you, but he chose to listen, and he acted like it was the first time he'd ever heard that.
I know. And he did. He always made you feel like you were the smartest one in the room when you knew you weren't,
Oh.
and that you, and like somebody said at his memorial service, and I want to preface this, we're not worshiping Charles, but the
No.
word says to give honor where honor is
That's
due.
good.
And let me tell you something, honor is due that man. I have never met anyone with the exception of his bride, because the two of them are one,
Yes.
that showed more love, the love of Yeshua. God is love, and they walked around just emanating love. I never, in all the years I've known Charles and Miriam, I've never heard him give a discouraging word to anyone, or
You
say
might have
any.
been corrected, but it wasn't discouraging.
No, it
You
wasn't.
were
It made.
challenged to be better, huh?
Right, right. Yeah, he would ask you a question. Well, what do see here? He would ask you things, and you'd be like, I hadn't thought of it that way, and but it wasn't like, oh no, that's not right. You got that all wrong. He never ever did anything like that. And I tell you what, I felt not only humbled at his memorial service, just knowing the kind of person he was and listening to everybody sharing the exact same experiences, and I thought, yeah, that's how he is. Yeah, he did that with me too. Yeah, and it was consistent.
And you didn't feel like, oh, I'm not special. He did it with everyone. You felt like, wow, I'm special. He did it with me
Right,
instead, right?
right. Yeah. And
Yeah. What a beautiful example of Messiah. Like you said, we saw Messiah. He was showing us how to walk it out the way that Messiah did for us. And again, we're not worshiping him by any means, but he
right,
was an inspiration for us to be that kind of a person. Now we all get to now carry it on, correct?
right, right. Well, I tell you what, it challenged me because I was sitting there thinking, I'm I'm a real private person, basically, and I don't I think it's a residue of trust issues sometimes, to be honest. So you said we were going to get raw, right? So
Yeah,
let's
it's
just
raw
get,
day. So
yeah,
yeah,
it's raw day.
get ready. We're
And
keeping it real.
yeah, we got to keep it real. And I thought, how much have I missed out on because I'm more guarded? How many relationships have I missed out on that we could have been best buds, or I could have made them feel the way Charles made everybody else feel, and because I've guarded myself somewhat, being honest, um, you miss out on a lot. And I
That's really good.
and I realized that as I was sitting there, I was thinking, man, you know what, Deb? You need to be more like that. You need to just be open and loving and let the chips fall where they may. And it's not up to you to guard yourself. God's got you. Just like he had Charles. He was enveloped in his.
Deb, you and I both have talked about this many times. And I know that there's women out here feeling the same. You have wounds from church. Maybe you have wounds from other women. So you have your walls built up around you because you don't want to be hurt again.
Right, right, exactly. And, I thought I'd pulled all my walls down, but when I was sitting there listening to people talking about Charles, and, Miriam and Charles had never toot their own horn, but I experienced a few things with them. He always carried $100 bills in his wallet. Now, he wasn't rich by any stretch of the imagination. They're not driving a Mercedes or a
They have an old
Lexus.
van.
They have an old, I mean, everything, but he would carry those bills with him, and he would just give them to people randomly as the Spirit led him.
Mhm.
And I know one time he crushed $200 in my hand, and I said, Charles, what's this for? And it was when I had my accident with my teeth. He goes, I want to contribute to helping to pay for your accident, you know. And I said, oh, no, that's not necessary. He goes, I know that. I want to do it. And he just said, I love you. You're loved, you know. And that was his mantra. You're loved. And so it was just, I've seen him do so much. Just a couple of weeks ago, he told Miriam, he said, the pizza delivery guy came. They were going to have pizza. And he gave Miriam a $50 bill and he said, give this to him and don't get change. And she goes, Charles, you know, pizza's only like $20, you know, or $15. I forget what she said, but and he goes, I know he needs it. Well, when she handed it to him and said to keep the change, the young man started crying. He said, "You know, I just barely got here on gas." He goes, "I really needed gas so badly." So Charlie's he was so sensitive in the spirit. He just knew, and he was right, you know. And Miriam came back and she, you know, she told me, she said, "Ah, that Charles, he's just something else." Like, yeah, he is. But it was just, and they've been perfect for each other.
And it was, you know, he couldn't, you know, he would say, you know, we've all say that, oh, you can't outgive God. And he didn't, like you said, he didn't tell anybody. He would just slip money in your hand and you
Right.
dare not fight him about it. And but he was, or he'd call you and say, do you need anything? Do you need anything? Do you need money? How are you doing with your money? You know, we're afraid to talk about that with each other. But he would ask hard questions. How are you doing with your money? How's your money? Like,
Yeah.
what? Okay, we're going there. Okay. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, but it was a you know, everything you're saying again is reminding me just of how we get to inspire one another. And you know, as we're going to go into this in this portion, we're going to talk about, you know, we're and what a, and apologize, I did not get in there to update that slideshow. I looked, I went, oh, I forgot to put the new. This is one of my favorite portions. One of the reasons is because it's Baruch. I love saying.
Okay, let me hear you say it because I've been struggling this
Oh my
morning.
gosh. Oh my gosh. Now I'm going to make sure Bechukatai.
Bechukatai.
And I think it's so fun. We know Bechukatai, you know, we get to, this is funny to say. And it is the, we want to dedicate this portion to him in honor of his memory. Isn't it a beautiful portion? It's the closing, it's the end. This is the end. You know,
As
we
Leviticus, yes.
celebrated him this week, and this is the last of this book, the last of teaching us how to walk as priests. We are a kingdom of priests, and we were blessed, and many of you were blessed to be in the to have some of the discipleship of Charles as he taught us to walk as priest. Correct, Deborah?
Right. Oh, yeah. And actually, some of the rabbis say that when in this week's Torah portion, where he said to that you would he would walk with us, that it really the meaning behind that was it's like in the garden that he would walk with us. So it was like returning to the garden. And when I was reading and going through some of the material on this particular portion, I thought about, well, Charles really is walking in the garden right now with them. What a beautiful, what a beautiful portion that comes up at the end of his life. He loved Sabbath.
Oh,
Charles
yes.
loved the Sabbath, and him and Miriam both. I mean, that was like such a beautiful time for them, and they just loved it. And he passed on in the twilight evening part of the evening on Friday, the Rev Shabbat, and so he got to spend his very first Sabbath with Yeshua. And I thought, wow. And that's what this portion is really about is he will walk with us. If we do his commandments, if we keep his covenants, he's walking with us.
Right.
And Charles is literally getting to walk with him right now. and I'm sure he's rejoicing and probably isn't even giving us a second thought right now. The glory is way too much for him, but we're sad, you
We're
know.
sad. We're
We're
sad. This portion is small but mighty, right? So
right.
for those of you that if you want to jump into your Bible, we're in Leviticus 26:3 through 27:34. We're going to close out this book. It always comes too quickly. I can't believe we're going to be jumping into the next book already. It always comes too quick. And what have we learned so far? We're closing out a book. So Deb, what are we thinking about Leviticus? What have we learned so far? We've learned about laws of the Mishkan. What have we learned? Just overview. What can you come off the top of your head?
Off the top of my head, I think the main thing is exactly what you said, is we learned how to walk uprightly before God,
Mhm.
and we learned how to be priests because
Yes.
we're a nation and a kingdom of priests. And we also learned about the tabernacle
Mhm.
and the places in the tabernacle and what they meant. And we learned, I mean, it's such a rich book, it's
It
hard
is.
to pinpoint, an overall picture because there's so much on each page, in each chapter, that it really is a difficult one to just give you
It
a
is. It's such a big,
synopsis
and
of.
it really was, from my understanding, that's understood that the book of Leviticus, it was actually a book that it's the priest manual. So it was a
Oh,
book that they would have had, one of the first ones of they would have had, that they would have taken around, that it would have been like, oh, how do we do this? Well, wait, let's look and see.
right,
And it
right,
would have been one to find out how we do things. Children, they start out in the book of Leviticus.
right,
You're like, what? We teach our kids, we start with a felt board and teaching them all the beautiful stories. And instead they're teaching them, how do you make it? It starts right off. How do we make approach to our king
right,
with the
right.
corbanots?
Yeah. And most of us that kind of grew up with the New Testament doctrines
Mm-hmm.
and not having much understanding of the Hebrew uh, doctrines or statutes and whatnot, we always start our kids like any new believers. What is the first thing we tell them to do? Is the book of
John.
John.
Yeah, we start in the book of John.
Yeah,
Yeah,
where it's
right.
all about love, and all of this, but this is really a rich book, and I can understand why now that they would start their children with Leviticus, because it teaches you how to walk with God. It teaches you how to be approved by him, and it takes you right back to Genesis, where I mean, it's really this particular portion this week. If I could title it, I would call it cause and effect.
Yeah, good. I like it. If then, right?
Yeah, if you do this, then this is what's going to happen, and it'll cause blessings. It'll cause fruitfulness, and and just like we were talking with Charles, he had a lot of fruitfulness, so he was walking in the way he should walk. And
Right.
and so if we really want to experience fruitfulness in our lives, if we really want to be truly blessed in, in our coming and our going in and our going out, if we really want that for our children and our children's children, uh, this is the place to learn it.
Mm-hmm.
This is how we do it. And it's just a beautiful portion this week. I think, I read that that the word for about yielding its fruit, they will yield its fruit.
Yes.
The root word there is resh sadak, and it means it could also mean, you could read it this way: the will yields its fruit.
And isn't that
So
the first approach? We have the korban olah. It's the giving up the entirety, giving up our will, giving it all up to
yeah,
him.
yes. And so it's this will, we will what our life experiences are going to be
Wow.
by our actions.
Yes. Oh,
And
okay. I'm understanding you now. Okay. So so which reminds me, and we heard all day long the when we were at the services, what word did we hear? Legacy.
yes,
What legacy? You will leave the fruitfulness, a legacy of fruitfulness if you do this. And we remember that the word curses, the word is, we'll just, we're not going to get all deep into this, but just that word is not like, coming up with a potion and throwing in like a hair of the dog and a spider into it. It's not making up a
Right.
witch's brew for a curse. This is about a limitation.
Right.
And I really like, and we talked, I think it was Rebecca and I talked a couple of weeks ago, it's really a course correction, right? He's saying, you're going to have some course corrections, no different than if you listen to, I was blessed to have Robin Coward on my show on Wednesday. And she said, she used to restrict her children. She said, you're restricted to my side for the day.
Mm.
And it's a course correction. He's not going to bless us in the middle of our rebellion, because he's not only, because it's not the legacy he's going to let us leave, is that we're blessed in that. And you may look around and see people and you're like, yeah, but they're blessed. But are they? If we really go to their homes, you only know what they're showing. You only know their Facebook best moments, their highlights.
Right. Yeah. No, nobody takes pictures of Facebook when they're having arguments or disagreements, or, things aren't going well, or your hair is all messed up and your house is all messed up and the kids are out running around, and, no, nobody takes those kind of pictures to show what my family's like. It's always where everybody's all, looking like little angels. We're so happy.
Yeah, exactly.
But, yeah, so you don't
no one
really
sees
know.
that. No. So what we don't see is what the lack of shalom. I know one of the best things when Charles and Miriam were in my home, he was sitting there and he sat there and he goes, I just love it here. I just feel all the shalom in here. I love it in here. I thought, that's the best compliment I've ever received. And I thought, I just want to sit here now too. And it's just, if you can, that you're blessed because you're trying to hit the mark. And he's just going to make some course correction. Sometimes we'll read this and be like, oh, he's a mean God. That's not what he's saying. He says, I love you so much. I'm not going to let you do that. I might restrict you to my side. I'm going to,
Right. Right. Exactly.
With your kids, I love you. So this is hurting. I love you so much as you're spanking their bottoms, but you're doing it because you love them, because otherwise you just let them go off. But you're like, I love you too much to let you continue to act that way, son or daughter. Think of your children when you're correcting them, Deb, right?
Oh, right.
You didn't correct them. You corrected them out of love. Otherwise you wouldn't care and just let them run amok.
Well, I didn't understand that when I was young, and I've got this little seed, maybe it's a big seed of rebellion in me. And so when my dad told me that one time, as I was getting he called it a shillelagh, because it's really a belt, across my bottom. And he said, this is really hurting me a lot more than it is you. And I thought, well, give me the belt then. Let's test this theory. I didn't say that.
We are one of the same, because my mom would say, I'm doing this because I love you. In my brain, I'm thinking, I can't wait till I'm old enough to return my love. Like this.
Yeah, because I'm like, oh yeah, I know. I really wanted to test that theory out, but but I didn't speak it. I just thought it, and I'm sure that's what you were thinking. You didn't
exactly.
Really
I would have got it 10 times worse if I had said that, but because again, it would have been, and with our human parents, or ourselves as human parents, when he says, how much more so does our heavenly Father, our perfect Father, love us? He will not leave us. That's the reason that they didn't get to stay in the garden. He says, this is eternal. I can't leave you here in this eternal state. You've now broken covenant because they ate together with this evil inclination, or with this, they're now in covenant, and they can't stay in that being, in that state of being eternally. So he loved them so much. It says the curse, we use that word since we're little, right, Deb? Oh, the curse. And instantly we all know we're taken to the garden, to an apple, to a snake. We're taken there. When we say the curse, we all know what it is.
Right.
But it was a limitation. He's saying, I love you so much, I'm going to restrict you to my side. I can't let you stay in this state eternally. So I'm going to cover you with new clothing so that you don't walk in shame.
The first thing he did. Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to cover you. Because instantly they're like, oh no, we're naked. And he's like, who told you that? I'm going to cover you, and then I'm going to set you outside, and it's going to be hard for you. There's going to be some hard, because you're going to learn to not be this anymore. And we get to continually do this perpetually. And we see this in this book. This is what's
Right.
going to happen. I love you so much. I say this often, y'all, but he says, people will be saying, there's no instruction manual for my children. Yes, there is. I'm here. We're reading it even this week. We read it every week.
Right.
Here's our instruction manual.
Right.
You give your
Eh,
children your if thens. That's one of my downfalls. I don't feel that I did a very good job. One things I could have improved on was giving better if thens. I just
Right.
thought, I said I was raised an only child, so a lot of things happened in my mind, and then my daughter would get in trouble, and then it was like I'd realize, oh, I don't think I told her there was a consequence if you did this, and what the consequence was going to be. And I
Right.
listened to this lady, and she was talking about the way she talks to her children instead of screaming and yelling. And she said she would say, like she'll say, I'll ask my son, I need you to do the dishes, and I need you to do them by this time, because otherwise she already knows his
Right.
limitations, that he's going to wait all day until the last minute. So she will say, I need it done by 1 o'clock. So at 12
Right.
o'clock, she says, son, and a calm, I'm letting you know that, and she tells him the consequence. You have 1 hour. And at the end of this hour, if you're not doing, this is the consequence for that. If he doesn't do it, then she says, all she does is impose the consequence. There's no yelling. There's no screaming. There's no, I tell you all the time, blah, blah, blah. She said, I stopped doing that. And then I just impose the consequence.
Right.
And the result is the same. And now what happens is I've now maintained my peace, and she's more in alignment. That's what the Father does with us, right?
Right.
He's telling
No.
here, he's going through the things. I am going to bless you. I love when he says, I will bring shalom in the land, and you will lie down, and no one will be making you afraid. I will remove dangerous beasts from the land. Can we
Mhm.
apply that today to where we're living today?
Oh yeah. Yeah. That this week's Torah portion really reminds us too that when a land is cursed, 10 women are going to bake one loaf of bread. And that, what does that mean? It's the food could be sparse. What are we hearing right now? We're facing up to some food shortages very quickly, so this is a great instructional book, and it lets us know though we don't need to be afraid,
Mm-mm.
because we may see this happening all around us, but it's not going to affect his children, because he's going to make sure if he has to bring in a raven to feed us, we're going to be fed. So,
Absolutely.
Leviticus is a book of trust also, if you want to sum it up in one word.
Oh, that's good.
How much do I trust him? You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and I know every spanking I ever got as a child involved my will.
Every single one.
Yeah, exactly. And what did Yeshua say? He said, let the in his prayer, he says, hallowed be thy name, let your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Well, the Father's will is for good.
Yes. In the garden, not my will,
Yeah,
Father, but yours.
right, exactly. And so we have to give up our own will sometimes in order to follow him. And that's a matter of trust. If we can't, faith is really, if you sum it up, is trust. Do I trust you, Lord? Do I trust you with my life? Do I trust you with my children?
Mm,
Do I trust you with my finances? That's faith summed up, is really, how much do we trust him? I know when I was a kid, I never worried or gave a care, that, oh, they might not be able to make the house payment this month. We might get our electricity turned off. There might not be food on the table. I trusted that those things would just be there because my daddy made provision for it. And that's the kind of trust our Father in
right.
heaven wants from us, is just, no, don't worry about it. Don't fret about it. Just trust me. Do you trust me?
What would you say, Deb? I'm going to call Dr. Deb, calling Dr. Deb to the station here. What would you say to those who they didn't have a father that they could trust? And they're
This
saying, well,
is
I hear you, Deb, but how, but, and I'm reading this and I'm seeing everything go wrong in my life. And I did have to worry if there was food, and I did have
right.
to worry about those
And
things because I didn't have trust.
right. Well, and in those cases, what I would say to that person is, this is your opportunity to feel safe. When you read his word, he wants you first and foremost to feel safe.
Mm,
How 365 times he tells us not to fear. Fear not, for I am with you. He tells us that he's our front guard and our rear guard, and that he will surround us. And we have to desire to just sit in his lap and let a father's love surround us. That's what the book is. That's what the word of God is. It's being enveloped. And he warns us of the consequences. You know, if you sneak out at night and do something you shouldn't do.
Why are you telling my story right now?
Yeah, I know, right? I thought that was a secret. Darn. You know, bad things are going to happen.
You're gonna
And
you're gonna get in a car accident, wreck the car, and then you won't have a car. Oh wait, that happened to me. And
yeah, exactly.
this is what's gonna happen. And if I got in trouble, it was because I don't want you to do it again, because I know, you know, your children, we know the worst that could happen, and we're protecting them from that worst that could happen.
Right. And what about your will? Wasn't it your will that always got you in trouble? Not your father's will.
No.
Or, you
No,
know, your
no, no, no.
parent or whoever in your life, you know, or the word of God. It wasn't because of God's will that we've ever gotten in trouble. It's always our will.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
why Yeshua said, your will be done.
Yeah.
You know, and because none of us will choose pain, even the Messiah himself being God, you know, in the flesh, his will wasn't exactly the same as the Father's when he was looking at what happens. He saw every day what crucifixion looked like.
Mm-hmm.
He knew what was coming, to the point that he actually sweated blood. And I've been scared before, and I've had anxiety before, but I've never sweat blood.
Mm-mm.
The pressure that he was under at that very moment is unfathomable. You know, to where the tiny capillaries in your face, that's what happened when he sweat blood,
Yeah.
broke from the pressure. We can't even imagine what it cost him to lay down his will. If we will lay down our will, he took on our sins so that we could walk in his righteousness.
Right.
And in his will. I read something, I thought this was so good, because I don't speak fluent Hebrew or any of that, but the kuf in the word for uprightness in this week's Torah portion, this rabbi was saying had 2 crowns on it.
Wow.
And usually the kuf doesn't have 2 crowns on it. And that word with that kuf in it, with the 2 crowns, was uprightness. And what it reminded me of is that we don't walk in our own uprightness or righteousness. We walk in his.
Yeah.
He has crowned us. He has shared his crown to allow us to partake of his righteousness, to be covered in uprightness.
And isn't it cool that we get that crown, and then it says there'll be a day when we'll lay that crown back at his feet.
Right.
And I remember when I think I might have shared this before, but when we talk about, people would say, oh, you did that great thing. Oh, that's a good thing you did. Oh, you just got a nice jewel in your crown. Oh, you're building your crown. And at one point I was like, Father, I don't understand. Why would I need a crown? Like, I feel that's very prideful of me to be worrying about how my crown is. I'm just working on a crown. And he reminded me, the scripture says, I'm going to throw the crown at his feet. The crown wasn't for me, is I'm doing my best and I'm living my best so that I can have the best to give back to him. It's like, then we go to the parable of the talents. How did I sow? How did I invest? How did I use the gifts and the talents and the time that he gave me? How did I do that to lay that at his feet? Not because I'm going to wear it around, showing everybody out, showing off like, oh, look at me, I got a bigger crown than you, in heaven. It's right. Like, no, it's so that I have the best gift to lay at his feet.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's walking in uprightness with him.
That's good.
Because he walks with you when we walk uprightly. He's with us. And it's his righteousness that really gives us our crown, not our own. What scripture says, our own righteousness is like filthy rags, which is ministration, rags. This is what it really meant. Is what it, translates to.
Bloody, yucky rags, not good. Unclean.
Yeah, yeah, very unclean, not good at all. And that's our righteousness. But when we put on his crown of righteousness, then that's how the Father sees us.
Hmm.
He sees him reflected in us. And I, going back to Charles again, and the services on Wednesday, was just, you saw his crown, but it was Yeshua's crown,
And it
you
was all of
know,
us. It was
and it
all
was
of
all
us.
of us. Yes. Because it was funny that morning, Charlie. I was praying, because it was a hard day for everybody, but especially for Miriam. I was praying for her, and I remember saying it to the Father. I said, "Wow, the world just got a little darker without His light." And I didn't know what was going to happen at the service that day. And but the Lord reprimanded me. I felt like in my heart He said, "No." He displayed my light to many. And lo and behold, Halisa's talking about the light that he shared, and the light came from all of these different directions. I mean, the sanctuary was totally full.
Full of it was
Uh,
multiplied. His light was
yes,
multiplied in all of us. And are we doing that with others? Are we
that
multiplying the light? Are
that's
we
where
hiding it? Like we were
that's
saying, our trust.
that's where I got convicted big time. As I'm sitting there listening to this, I'm like, oh, how much of my light am I spreading? And there was this rabbi. I read this story one time, and it really is apropos to this week's Torah portion. That someone asked him, "What is your worth as a human being?" And he, of course, he was from England, and so his answer to that person, he thought about it for a second. He said, about 50,000 pounds. And, uh, uh, British money. And he said, oh, oh, Rabbi, your worth is far greater than 50,000 pounds. Where did you come up with 50,000 pounds? And he said, that's how much I gave in charity this year. And so he looked at his worth is in what he could give others, not intrinsically in himself, but his worth was based upon what he gave. And I thought, whoa, that for somebody who didn't know the Messiah, that's so Messiah-ish.
So Messiah-ish. I'm going to just be, we're keeping it real. When you were saying that in my mind, I was thinking, oh, well, let's see, what's the value? How much money can you earn in a year times how many years of your earning potential? That's where I went. Like, what's earning? I'm going in this little,
Right?
businesswoman math. Like, what is this worth? And not about what was the worth of what can I give? What's my contribution and what can I give? What it was more about how much can I earn is the value of a life.
Right.
And that's not what our value is.
No,
It's not earning potential.
no.
The
Well, and
value is what is it can we give? Where is our it's not just our money, it's time, our
right,
talents, the gifts he's given us,
our treasures. Yeah,
our treasures.
yeah. And that's in this week's Torah portion too,
Yeah.
because when you first read that, you want to think, oh, well, men are worth double what the women were to give to the temple, or to the tabernacle, the for the tithe. No, their earning potential wasn't the same as men's, so they couldn't give the same amount men could.
And he was loved us so much he didn't make us do that because he knew we were spending time with children and the
Right,
husband and the things. So he's like, you can't do that. So it wasn't diminishing
it,
us, it was
it
saying,
wasn't
honey, don't worry about it, I'll catch you.
exactly. And that's all like in how we read it.
Mm-hmm.
Because like you said, on the giving part, well, what's my earning potential, over the next, 30 years, and and that's my worth, that's my value. No, that's not our value. It is what we can give others and
Mm-hmm.
what we can give away. And really, that's the only thing that we get to take with us when we leave this planet, is what we've left other people with. I mean, I was at Charlie's funeral, as you were. I didn't see a U-Haul truck out there with all of his books and all of his possessions and all of his worldly goods. All he took with him was the love that he really gave everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that amazing? I mean, you think about that, and it's like we all have that capability to give of ourselves. We may not all have the money to, sponsor this and sponsor that and give here and give there, but we all have that ability to give of ourselves.
Amen. I know Miriam sent it when she sent the message that she sent to me with the picture. She said in this morning, and she said, my daughter, you will do amazing today. Teach us to number our days. And then we're in
Mm,
still in counting the Omer. Teach us to number our days.
amen.
I think that it's easy for us to get painfully aware of the number of our days. I know, don't make any bones about how old I am. I'm 54, but I find myself, my husband was buying these trees. This guy on Facebook was selling trees for $5. So he wanted to get a bunch of trees. And I caught myself thinking, I'm not going to be here for these trees. But then I remembered, and I think Brenda was sharing with me when I was telling her about this. I said, will I even be here for this? Or am I going to plant them for my grandchildren? Like, what's the point? And she said, isn't that funny how we think that way? And like with Abraham, that happened with him. He's saying he built wells for other people. He built wells he wasn't going to be using.
Right. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and that's what Charles did. As we continue back on this, is that, and the priests and they're building things that they would not even participate in.
No.
And our Charles's legacy, our legacy isn't anything we're going to see right here. Is a word used a lot. It's not
Right.
anything we're going to see. We think, oh, my legacy is my children. My legacy is these things. Like you said, bring the
Right.
U-Haul. My
Right.
legacy is my grandchildren. My legacy are the people I'm teaching in this ministry. That's my legacy. It's like, you don't even know your legacy, because your legacy is going to be that the pizza guy that
Right.
goes home and then loves on someone else and loves someone else and loves someone else. It's 5 or 6 generations down.
Yeah.
You'll never know your legacy. So don't try to look
Yeah.
for it.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's really deep, but it's very profound and beautiful.
Well, we want to put our name, like, oh, well, I have my name on this school I'm building. I mean, here's some really wisdom. I think I heard this concept initially from Oprah Winfrey, and she was talking to Maya Angelou, and it was about her building the school for those young girls in Africa and saying, oh, this is my legacy. And Maya Angelou said something to that to her, is like, that's not your legacy. You're never going to know your legacy.
Yeah. Wow. Wow.
And I
That's
sat in that thinking, wow, but what I can do is I can be a good steward of what's around me now, whether it's giving. You said
right.
about talking about money, and in all of this is, what are we planting the seeds, whether it's money to a uh, there's lots of times that the Father, Randy and I do keep, we call it bicycle money. This is before we even met Charles. We have bicycle money in our wallets,
Right.
because we had a friend who had kept $100 bill in his wallet all the time, and at one point, because if the Father gave him the opportunity to give, he wanted to have it ready to give. And the long story short is, it was a girl, her bicycle was broken. It was her way back and forth to work. He and a coworker took her to work, and then they went to Walmart, bought her another bike, and brought it because he used his bicycle money. So then Randy, he didn't call it that. So we started calling it our bicycle money. But I see it now, Deb, as the edge of my field. That I'm not going to live to the edge of my field. I want the edge. I have the edge of my field in my wallet.
Right.
So that at any time someone needs something, I'm able to throw it down, like Boaz told the servants to do for Ruth. I'm able to throw it down because it doesn't mean anything to me.
Right.
It's just a piece of paper with some writing on it, but it's his, and it's used as a tool to answer a prayer, like this pizza boy who needed the cash. Or many of you, I'm
Right.
sure we could spend all day, everyone telling testimonies of when the Father spoke to your heart. There was a time when we happened to have cash, a considerable amount of cash for something in our car, and we had stuck it. And before we went into the restaurant, we were trying to hide it, figuring out where we were going to hide it so no one would accidentally steal it. We're in San Diego, so we're like, oh
Right.
no. And we went into a restaurant, and the Father told us to give it to our server, and we're like, and I said, I think we have to give that money to her. He goes, I know. I was scared to tell you. and and so at the end or whatever, we left it for her, and we thought, that's too much money for us just to leave on the table and walk away. Like, we have to say something. So, and she said, she went, we were getting ready to leave, and she came running out, and she says, I just have to tell you, I have breast cancer, and I didn't have the money to finalize the stuff I needed to get the work I needed to do done. And I needed this much money. And that's exactly how much we left her
Oh,
for
wow.
her bill. It turned out, then I ended up meeting her family. Of course, then we're friends on Facebook. So now she ended up dying. She ended up living and doing great things ended up dying in a car accident several years later. But I am now friends with most of her family on Facebook, and they see posts. They want to ask me to pray for them. The legacy isn't the girl, it wasn't the server at the restaurant.
Right, right. Oh, yeah, that's beautiful. No, that is so, so, so true. And you're right. You don't really know the legacy. My grandmother, on my father's side, my paternal grandmother, was the most amazing grandma. I just loved her to pieces. And she was hilarious. She had this great sense of humor. One time I called her and I said, "What are you doing, Grandma?" And she goes, "Oh, I'm watching a neighbor shovel the snow off of the ice and snow off of my sidewalk." And I go, "Oh, well, that's sweet." And she goes, "No, not really." And I said, "Why?" And she said, "Oh, I was hoping some old man would come along and slip and I could drag him in the house." And she was like 86 years old. I mean, that wasn't going to happen.
Oh,
But she
fun.
just had this great sense of humor. And uh, her legacy to me is I wanted to be that kind of grandma to my kids, my grandkids. And I've had them tell me, "Grandma, you're the funniest grandma that I know." They'll tell me things like that. And that was her legacy, but she never saw it. She never saw
No.
my grandchildren, you
Right.
know,
Right. Or
eh,
what they're going to do to their grandchildren,
or what
right?
or how yeah, the
And isn't
legacy.
that the legacy we have with this book? As we're leaving it, we think, oh, we're done, but it's not. There's a legacy of these words that don't return void. We
Right.
think there's a lot of us. I've had blessed. Thank you for all of you who've reached out to me and said, yes, yes, Leviticus is now. I love this book. I don't hate it anymore, because a lot of us skim through it really fast and then just check the box that we read it and we went to the next book that was easier to read. And many of you have gotten in touch with me, and I can't tell you, that blesses my day. So don't stop. Please let me know. I love hearing that now Leviticus, you don't see it the same way. It's now,
Right.
you can't wait till next year to read it again, that you can't wait to dive in deeper. I love it. Write it in the notes now if you're watching on Facebook, hello, or you're replaying it. Would you please just type in there, just, I love it. It's my new favorite. Maybe it's not your favorite, okay? Because it's a little hard, because it's like, here's the rule book, but it's also the blessings book. If
It
I was going to
is.
tell you, here's the treasure map, and if you follow this, you're going to have to go up this hill, down this hill. You're going to have to, I mean, my granddaughter, we do, okay, let's make a treasure map and we'll hide something and we have to find the treasure. And as you're going through, you're going to go through, the sea of craziness, and you're going to have to mount, we come up with these funny things,
Right.
and you have to swim through sharks, but it's all worth it, because at the end, the blessing that you get, the treasure that's hidden, you'll
Yes.
do whatever it takes. Right? We can look
Right.
at the Raiders of the Lost Ark. Whatever it took, the snakes, the climbing, the sliding down mud, whatever, all the, trying to find this lost ark. It's worth it, y'all. It's worth it, everyone. It's
Yeah.
worth it. And he's saying,
Amen.
here's your treasure map. I'm going to give you the treasure map as you go through this. And I'm going to tell you that I'm going to turn towards you and make you fruitful and multiply you. You will eat the old harvest, because he says, I will confirm my covenant with you. You'll eat the old harvest and clear out the old because of the new. If you want to go back on to Messianic Lamb Network.com, you can look at replays. I think they replay it tomorrow as well. But like I said, Robin Coward was teaching with me on Wednesday on there, but you can watch it. It's called The Practical Portion. She talked about this, and she was mentioning, even with Charles, she said, he says, he may take out the old and bringing in the new, but that's part of the process. We have to know that that's part of the process, because
Right.
much like Joshua and Caleb, it was time for Moshe. We'll see him coming up. He'll be giving them instructions, and then it's time for
Right.
him to sit down, because it's time for the next generation to jump up and go and take the land.
Yes.
I felt
Amen.
that call, Deborah. I know you did. I know you
Yeah.
did. It's time to take,
Yeah.
it's time to go. It's time to take the land.
It's time. Yeah. How long are you going to go around this mountain?
Yeah, it's
Time to
time.
go. It's
It's
time to
time to
do.
get up and do it. We
Because
talked about in Wednesday about, I was sharing about, I watched Aleph Beta, and I borrowed liberally from this, and I'm not going to go into it today. You can go back and watch that. But the book of Leviticus is actually a really cool chiasm, and we've talked about the chiasm in this. If you read this, when you read this, you're hearing a lot of the same verbiage that you should go back, and you're looking like he's talking again about blessings and cursings, and you're going to see, I want you to go through, you'll see there's chiastic, and again, I'm not going to go through it,
Right.
but you'll see the parallels. You have the bookends, then the next talks about the same thing, and then the next talks about the same thing as you're coming towards the center. And in a chiasm, you're always looking at what's the center, what's the center. The center of the book of Leviticus is Yom Kippur, is the
Right.
center. When you come to the center of where it all is, it's Yom Kippur. This is that great day. Hebrews, he says, and when you see that great day approaching, he's talking about Yom Kippur. When you see this great day approaching, and in Hebrews, he's telling us what to do, right? How we're to prepare for
Right.
that. Know that in this book, know that as you're going through Yom Kippur is a time when we get to approach him. He's giving us, he's going through again, like we don't need to hear again about all the Moedims, about all the seasons, about all the times. We don't, he said, yeah, you
Yeah.
do, because it's the way of getting you prepared. Shabbat every
Right.
week is about getting you prepared for that great day.
Right.
My
Oh,
daughter's getting married today.
she
In a
is?
very emotional day. In 8 minutes, my daughter's getting married. I have my only daughter. And it's a great day. It's a great day. And in this great day, this is the closest. Brandy and I got on the phone with her and Anthony. We said, this is the closest you will be to the Father. This is so important, this covenant, because in this covenant between the two of you, this is when you are the most like him. This is like the covenant he made with us. We get to walk this out on this planet, and every day you get to choose this covenant. That this above all covenants is the most important covenant that you have. And your covenant with him. Crystal, today at the table, we were talking about this covenant as a married couple. It's hard for some of you. Some of you are walking with spouses who are not in covenant. They're saying, well, he's not walking Torah. He's not pursuing Torah. But the covenant, and she's a beautiful, and I'm going to have her record what she shared with me. It's beautiful. Know that your covenant with your husband, the Father recognizes that above the fact that he's not walking in Torah. He's honoring the fact that you're honoring your covenant with your husband. And as you walk it out in grace and love, and you show him the love of this, he will honor that. And he will cause your husband, as he says in Ezekiel, I will take a heart of stone, I will turn into a heart of flesh, and I will cause them to obey my commandments. I have spoken that over my husband, and my husband's walking it all out now. But I didn't cram it over his head. God honored the fact that I was honoring my husband, eating pulled pork sandwiches, pepperoni pizza, having to put a Christmas tree up in the house. Whatever you're walking through, he's saying, I'm honoring you. Because I have to let Crystal share it, because the way she shared it, the way that the Father revealed it to her in her process in her marriage was beautiful. But that's what we're going through now. He's saying, I'm preparing you for that great day.
Yeah. And it is all about the preparation, isn't it? Because that great day of judgment is coming, and he doesn't want his children to be unprepared. And studying the Torah is one thing, walking it and living it is something totally different.
Exactly.
And he wants us to learn to walk upright with him.
Yes.
And that's really what Leviticus is all about,
Mm-hmm.
is walking upright with him, with his crown, with his righteousness. We can't do it on our own, and we fail miserably sometimes. I mean, let's get real. None of us,
daily.
I know
We've all fallen short.
Yes, when I used to be a pastor, I've even said this from the pulpit before. God doesn't come in because you're in leadership or a pastor or whatever your profession is or whatever you do. He doesn't come in with fairy dust and sprinkle it over your head and you get up in the morning, la, hallelujah. It doesn't work. You have bad breath. You don't feel good. You don't even want to go to service. Let's get real. We live in these flesh.
It's hard traveling, Deb, because when you're traveling, you're like, oh, they're going to see my humanity, because you're staying with people. You're like, you do use the bathroom,
Yes.
and you do. You do wake up with your hair crazy. And,
yes, exactly.
oh, they're going to see my humanity.
Yeah. I mean, we're so silly sometimes, and like that is the important thing. I was raised by a Southern mother, and everything was about appearance.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. My mother on her deathbed, please don't forget this. My mother on her deathbed looked up at me, and I had my hair pulled back as like a tight knot, and was wearing one back in those days. It was like the 90s. I was wearing one of those matching track suits, that were like they're funny
Oh,
colors,
yeah.
and they match the top and the bottom. They're like MC Hammer pants almost. And she looked at me, and she's looks at me, and she looks up and down, and she goes, "Go back to the hotel and change and get ready. I want to introduce you to my doctor." I'm like, even on her deathbed, she's wanting me to go get lipstick on and change.
Yeah, yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, Southern mother.
Yeah. Well, my mom too, she said, when I pass, she says, be sure and put everything, make me look really pretty and make me look really nice when I go to the morgue. And I'm like, okay. So we did, but it was really hard trying
Isn't that
to,
different from today, from what we saw Wednesday? What was the difference?
oh, there was no care
There was no
about
care. Here's the thing, for any
about
of you
that
who haven't
old
been to like
flesh.
a Jewish or Messianic, like a burial, this was my first, Deb. I'm not sure, but this was my first. And I saw he walked again, even unto death, he walked it out for me to show me how to do this well. There was no embalming. All of the fancy stuff was removed from the coffin. It was a plain wooden coffin. Was not like it was plain, and they were even removed any of the hardware that was fancy, so it was plain, and drilled holes in the bottom, and so that he would return, his body would decompose as quick as possible. And we're talking about real things here.
Right.
And I realized, before, I used to think, oh well, no big deal, I'm just going to get like cremated and spread me over my favorite location. And I was like, no, because I saw the power that happened Wednesday, that unto death I get to still be a testimony.
Right. Right. And like Halisa brought out, that Adam was created under the altar when he picked up the earth. And so that's why we return to the earth, our bodies. Their spirits weren't created under the altar, their bodies were. And so
Yeah.
our spirits always return from whence they came. So they actually go to the Father, and there is there actually, I think there was a movie made about this, but scientifically, because they have, and you would know this, the beds that tell of the patient's weight, when they're in ICU
Mm-hmm.
and all that, um, they have done real true experiments where they checked the weight. They kept registering the weight of the body, and when that person passed, immediately it was 23 grams lighter. And there was no time for dehydration or any other reason that could have happened other than your spirit leaves your body.
I have to do math really fast now. Hold on. I'm putting this into pounds. That's okay. Be interesting to find out. That's really good. I've heard that before too. And it'd be interesting to find out. We start to nerd out and want to go into like gematria stuff and like, well, what does that mean? Is there a number? Is there an issue with this? Is there something
Yeah.
fun in here we can find? There was another part that I read that was really my big takeaway from this, and I will share this again. I did share it Wednesday. I will share it again. Is in verse 20, in chapter 26, verse 13, and I'm reading from my phone. I put, he says, "I have brought you out of Egypt so that you would not be slaves. I have broken the bars of your yoke and made you walk upright." As I read that, Deb, he says, "I have broken the bars," and you said up the upright, the double crown.
Mhm.
He's broken the bars of the yoke so that you will walk upright. Sister, he's
Mm,
broken the bars of the yoke so that you can walk upright. What has you been over?
right.
When he says that my yoke is light, um, I looked up the words for in Hebrew for bars or the bands, depends on and it's motah. And that's the would be the root of it. And what did the bars or the bands? He says, I've broken the bars or the bands. The bars or the bands, that word is motah, which it actually means a yoke. It means a rod that's bent around the neck, or a bull that's going to pull them, right? It's This word in Hebrew is for the yoke and everything, is actually, the word in Hebrew is ole, ole, ol. what did I tell myself? Ole. And the root for, so that was, mota is for this bar or this band. So when I was let me explain what I'm saying. So when I was reading it, I was like, so you've broke the yoke? Well, that doesn't make sense. Why is the yoke? And I realized it's just the translation is off. He says he's broken the bars, meaning the yoke. Okay. And then the word for yoke was alal is the root. It's ole, and then it's or ola, and its root is actually alal. And I'm gonna pull a Brenda on y'all right now. It's ayin lamed, and then for the alal, it's lamed. So ayin is our sight, and then the lamed we know is course correction, or it's the rod of correction. I always think about the way it looks. It looks kind of like a shepherd's hook.
Yeah.
Like some of us need to be yanked by, my mom would say, snatch you by your hair and pull you back. And he's saying that the yoke is actually what he has broken, that thing that's around us that's causing us to go in the wrong direction, because our sight is sighted, because they'll put blinders on a horse or an ox, because if they start looking at something else, they'll pull the whole thing the wrong direction. So sometimes what he says is, I've broken that yoke on you, and the yoke I have on you is light. And I'm giving you in this word, what I'm giving you here is not the word yoke. The word is the alal. I've given you this course correction so that you'll stay on track. You will hit the mark. I'm going to keep you so that you're going to hit the mark. Gesenius says that it'll also so that you can drink again. And I was like, well, that doesn't make any sense. What do you mean so that you can drink again? And it says you can drink. I've broken this so that you can drink like after a drought. Instead of the word yoke, this is what this word meant. Drink like after a drought until you drink so deeply. And all I kept thinking about is he has broken that yoke of the thing that you have seen as to what guides you and what you're drinking deeply from now. He's going to break that, because he's going to be like he was with a woman at the well. And he says, I'm going to give you water and you will never thirst again, because my yoke is light. So stand up. Stand up. I'm going to cause you to walk uprightly. That woman walked away from that well standing uprightly.
Standing upright, for sure. She ran.
She ran.
And you can just see her head being, looking up at the sky as she's running, going.
Yes.
And yeah.
No longer was she identified as she was the whore.
Right.
She wasn't identified as a harlot. She wasn't identified as the woman who'd been married all those times. She wasn't identified as the woman who had an abortion. She wasn't identified as the woman who had cheated or lied or stolen or been imprisoned or done drugs. No longer.
Yes.
And you're going to see him say this over and over. And it's reflecting back to this chapter. I realized, oh my gosh, how many things are in here? Yeshua tells us that his yoke is light. Then he finishes that and he says, so you will walk upright. It says it in this week. So you will walk upright. And I asked, okay, so what does upright mean? What's that? It's kume. It's H6965 for those of you who want to look that up. Kume, to arise from a seat or a bed. Do you hear it? Did you hear it? Kume. What did he say to the man? Kume.
Yes.
What did he say to the little girl? Kume.
Kume.
Take up your bed and walk. Get up and walk. Do you see it? Do you see the man that Yeshua is speaking to? Do you see that these curses, I mean, their curses or these limitations are not that. He's saying, I'm breaking the curses, but what I'm going to do is this yoke I'm going to put on you is going to be like the blinders. I'm going to put a new thing on you, and I'm going to cause you I'm going to cause you to honor my commandments, like he said in Ezekiel.
Yes. Yes. So what he's really saying is, get up off your deathbed.
Yes.
Because I'm bringing you life. I'm taking that thing that's weighing you down.
Yes.
And removing it. And it's interesting because in scripture, he refers so many times that he is the lifter of our heads.
Upright.
Upright. Yes. And that I learned this in psychology in one of my postgraduate classes, where they were showing us literally, if you throw your head back and you throw your arms out, do you know it's impossible to think a negative thought? Because what happens is when you lift your head, all of the dopamine and all of these really good, feel good endorphins are released from your brain.
All right, we're doing it. Everyone get up. I'm going to do it standing here. Everyone, we're getting up, get up. Let me see if I can do, I might break everything. I want you to do it. Put your head back, put your arms back, get up, sister. Can you get up? Get up. I don't care what you've done. I don't care where you've been. I don't care who people have told you you are. He's telling you today, he's causing you to walk upright. So get up. Do you feel it? Get
Yeah.
up.
Your smile, it puts a smile on your face immediately, doesn't it?
Kume. Kume, sister. I'm looking, I can see ladies up here on our group. Kume, get up. Kume, kume, ladies, get up, get up, get up. For your salvation has come. Let your light shine before men so that they see him. Kume, sister, kume. Amen.
Amen.
Amen, amen. Kume, sisters. Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, and isn't it interesting that thousands of years before Yeshua came to the earth, that Kume there in Leviticus has, which is never has on the kuf, 2 crowns. Hello. Hello, he broke our yoke.
Yeah. We've seen I'm seeing the poem, The Footprints, right?
Yes.
He's saying it's there, I carried you. He's like, I got you.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can lift your head.
Yeah.
And he asks, why are you downcast? Because your head's hanging low, and that cuts off that steady flow of dopamine and endorphins.
It's interesting, the world, Deb. I know I have, in the marketplace, there's coaching. They'll say, okay, before you go into a sales call, before you go into an important meeting, or before you go on to speak, or before you'll have coaches, they'll say, do a power pose. And it's your hands on your hips, and
right.
You have to do a power pose, or you put your arms straight out and put your feet wide, and you do a power pose for that exact reason, because it causes this rush to happen for you.
It's like the Superman pose.
It's empowering. Exactly. It's empowering.
Truth, justice in the American way.
Hayel says, I learned it as the Wonder Woman pose. Exactly, Hayel. Yeah. I was the same way. Do your Wonder Woman pose.
Exactly.
It's his power and his light that shines through us. Oh, so good. He's such a good father. He's such a good father. Yes. I want you to reread this when you're in your time during Shabbat. Reread this and see this isn't he's saying, I'm going to curse you. I'm going to curse you. These are going to happen. If you don't do this, I'm going to curse you. See it as, if you don't, and you find things are happening in your life, it's because I've put a course correction on you. This shouldn't be hard. Stop fighting against the course correction.
Right.
I don't know about you. We take this road to get to our house, and sometimes it's at traffic when everyone's getting off work at Walmart. I live down the street from the Walmart main offices. So when we if it's that time of day, it can be packed, this street. And so we avoid it and we take a back road. Well, our GPS will stay rerouting, and it'll keep trying to make us to turn around and go back, because it wants us to go the way it wants us to go, until we get to a point, and finally it will submit, and it'll redirect us, and it'll take us the way it'll go, okay, go this way. And it'll turn out it's like 5 minutes faster, and whatever. It's not, plus we don't have to go through all that traffic or stoplights and everything.
Right.
But up until that point, we know about half the way, it's going to keep trying to redirect us and tell us to turn around and go back. Is that what's happening to you? Are you feeling like it was so much easier when I was in church, when I was doing all these things, and it was so easier? This seems so hard. This seems like oh my gosh, this is horrible. Is it hard, or is he just saying, keep with it, just keep with it, and I'm going to bless you? Well, some things might be a course correction.
It is. And look what he said to the apostle, who we call the Apostle Paul, or Rav Paul. Saul, he literally said, why are you kicking against the goad?
Yes.
Well, goads are like cattle prods. It was to correct the course of the cattle. So what he was saying to Paul was, why are you fighting against course correction? I'm trying to correct you to the right course here.
Yeah.
If you want to be blind, I can do that. You can be blind, that's fine.
What is it going to take? Because some of us kids are a little more stubborn than the others. There's some of your kids, you can just My daughter, I could look at her the wrong way and she'd just start crying if she felt she
Right.
disappointed me. And then you have the other kids that you have to beat them to death and they still are stubborn. I'm that
Right.
child.
Yeah, exactly. My oldest daughter was like your daughter, what you're talking about. All I'd have to do is look at her. I'm so sorry, mom. Blah, blah, blah. Then my son came along. I always call Vicky the spoiler child because then my son came along and he needed a cattle prod to
That's why I
get.
stopped. I'm like, Shelby was too easy. I better stop because it's only going downhill from here. So
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
so
But
that's what you see that this is as
yeah,
I had a
I've seen
question
it
when
in
I'm
real life.
reading, Deb, I go through and I start asking questions like and words that hit me that are, and I mean, I hate to say this word negative, that are negative, but they seem like harsh. Let's say that.
Right.
Some words that seem harsh. And the word that hit me the most this round that was really harsh was in when he says, I will loathe you.
Mhm.
And it stopped me. So I've learned, and I want to challenge all of you the same thing as when you hit a word that bothers you, and we've received it all these years as, oh, he hates me, he loathes me. Oh, I want to challenge you to stop in that word and say, Father, is that true? Because a good father doesn't loathe his children. So is that a poor translation? Do I need to know something more about this word? Do I need to know
Right.
something more about this concept? And I dug into it and I'll share what I learned. The word loathe is actually, the primitive of that word is actually ga'al. It's H1602. And that was the primitive root for the word loathe. We do have a free course. It's in, if you can go to therootedcafe.com and click up at the top where it says, I think the portion, most of you are already in there. You can, or member login. If you put your email that you put to get into the portion, you put that email in and just say, I forgot my password. It'll come up and you'll already have this course for free. If you have any issues, just email us at info@therooted.cafe. You can go to our store. It says free courses. You can click on it and just do it that way. But we teach you how to use the Blue Letter Bible from a Hebraic perspective, not looking up
Right.
English words with an English dictionary, but how do we look at the Hebrew? And it's simple. It's the Blue Letter Bible for not so dummies. And we just take it. It's like 3 little lessons, like 10, 15 minutes a piece. It's fast. It's easy. It's a little simple gift that we can give you, and you can understand a little more about what we do in the Rooted Cafe and how we like to teach and disciple you. But the word means actually, so I took the word, it's ga'al, that's the primitive, because you want to go to the primitive root of this word in Hebrew. And then I pulled a Brenda and I broke it apart because I want to see the hieroglyphic of this word. So it was Gimel, Ayin, Lamed is the 3 Hebrew letters of this word.
Mhm.
So the Gimel, the picture of the Gimel, and so I'm just wanting, because in Hebrew, it's not about what it is like we say in English, right? It's about what is it doing. It's a verb driven language. So what is this doing? So we'll say, what's the hieroglyphic, or what's the movie? What's the full picture, 3-dimensional or multi-dimensional picture or movie of this word? So this is what this word is doing. The Gimel is this camel loaded down with gifts. I'm going to go through it quick and I'll come back. It's loaded down with gifts. And, or you'll hear people, it's used as a rich man bringing gifts to the poor. The ayin is about our sight, what we see or what we understand. Well, I see this way. You'll hear us use those verbiage, right? Instead of saying, I understand it to be, I see it this way. That's what that is, your sight or your understanding on something. And then the lamed again is about teaching, guiding, training. So I'm like, Father, so now you pull it together. It's like teaching my granddaughter how to read. We're doing phonics. Camel. It's camel. Okay, so that's what I'm trying to do right now with you, but we're doing it with a hieroglyphic. The Gimel is this. I'm like, Father, how is this a camel loaded down with gifts? A rich man bringing gifts to the poor? And I was like, oh, wait. And then to change their sight as part of their learning and their understanding. He's not saying the word should not be loathe. He said, if you do these things, I'm going to bring on these restrictions. It's a gift to you. I'm doing this because I love you.
Right.
I'm doing this to guide you and to change your sight and to change your direction and course correct you. It's not loathing.
Right.
Ladies, it's not loathing when you're seeing someone struggling with something and you're like, oh, is the Father, oh no, he just gives good and perfect gifts. It doesn't say he just gives that. He is the giver of good and perfect gifts. But we see right here that sometimes he'll make some course corrections and he can cause some things that happen. He can allow things to happen. But everything is not the devil, that he allowed the devil to do something. Some things
Right.
he does it because it's a course correction for you, because he's a good father. And he
Yes.
does not loathe you. Instead, he's coming with bearing gifts that may look like corrections because it's a gift to you.
Right.
Because I can tell you, my best changes in my lives where I changed to the better were when I thought I did not know what was happening. Well, you hear David, you should hear David's words in the Psalms, but it was a gift
Mm-hmm.
because I'm stronger. I have more
Amen.
wisdom.
Amen.
I can take that pause now without being in so much stress and anxiety and not feeling like I have to have the answer or I have to quickly fix it. I can sit back and be like, it's a gift. I open that gift up. What's the gift? I'm going to open it up. Well, it might look like he's saying you don't get to spend a bunch of time with your friends anymore because you can't handle it right now. You're
Right.
on restriction. I'm going to take some toys away from you. That's the gift you did you
Right.
pick the next gift off the camel? What's in this gift? Oh, I can't use my phone. You have to put it on do not disturb because your phone is keeping you from doing the work I'm trying to get you to do. And I need that course correction. I need to change your site from your Facebook page. I need to change your site. So I'm going to take Facebook away from you. That's my next gift. I'm scared. That's the next gift. Is he doing that to you? Is he taking things away? It's a gift.
Yes.
Yeah.
Amen. Amen. I can't even count the times in my life that I've lost something or something has been taken away or it's not available to me anymore, and that I have just dug in deeper with the Father and learned from just getting closer to him. And sometimes it was the very things that I counted as losses that were really gains because I just needed to get close to him,
Yeah.
you know.
That's being set outside the camp. It wasn't a punishment.
No, no, not at all.
It was a beautiful time to be able to or it was a course correction.
It was definitely a course
Because
correction.
the way you're doing right now, no different than walking in the garden. You can't stay in this garden under the going in that with your sight on something else, headed in that direction, because you're going to miss the mark. Remember, that's what sin is. Sin isn't this horrible thing we've been taught all through church. Sin is just missing the mark. And who's the mark? The mark is him.
Mm-hmm.
We want to, the mark is that date where we get to walk hand in hand with him. That mark is being able to meet with him at Yom Kippur on that great day.
Right.
That's the mark. We want to hit the mark and we want the well done. That's the mark.
Yes.
So he's
Yes.
saying, I'm not going to let you stay in that. So I'm going to, if you stayed in that, when we say, oh, they're unclean, it was that we're not fit for the service you were intended for. So
Right.
you need to spend some time outside the camp for some course corrections until we can review this again. And now, okay, now you're fit to come in it for service.
Yeah.
The purpose you were called to. Have you been outside the camp? Do you feel like you've been sat down? Do you feel like maybe he's been doing some course corrections and you've been fighting the goad because you've been rebuking a devil under every rock because you thought it was the devil? I challenge you to sit in this today and say, Father, where are you in this?
Yes. Yeah. What course correction are you leading me into?
And
And
he will lead you in all truth.
he will. He will reveal it.
He will.
And
He will. Robin made a comment. She said she likened this to Boaz and Ruth. What a beautiful combination of the two. As she says, when Boaz said now I'm getting emotional again, he said to his field workers, leave the grain for her, leave it for her, leave extra for her. And then he said to Ruth, don't look at any other field, keep your eyes on this field.
right. Right.
That's what he's saying to all of us today. Keep your eyes on this field. I've called you to this field. Don't look to your right or to your left, because when you do, he will course correct you. It's not a curse. He's going to correct you if your eyes are on some other field, on some other thing. Maybe you're pursuing a career he hasn't called you to, a ministry he hasn't called you to, doing something. That's what, as women, we want to do something he hasn't called you to, saying something he hasn't called you to. He's saying, stay in this, keep your eyes on this field. As
Keep
our
your
great
eyes.
Boaz to his bride.
And that's exactly what happened in the garden.
Yes.
Keep your eyes on the trees I've given you. I've given you all these trees.
Yeah.
And you've got the tree of life.
Yes.
But this one is reserved specifically over here that you can't partake of. Don't look at that tree. Look at all of the gifts. And don't we do that? We tend to look at the things we can't have and the things, that we shouldn't have, instead of all the many blessings and things that are surrounding us, even in our everyday walk.
That's what we focused in this portion. Look at, oh, he's cursing. And we want to, of course, point the finger. See, it says right here, he abhors you. Look at these words. He says this. I can read it right here. Oh, look at, he loathes you. He abhors you. Is that what he's saying? And I'm challenging you. Let's stay in the field of your Redeemer.
Yes. Yeah. And
don't be like me and sneak out in the middle of the night and you're going to end up wrecking your car and someone's in the hospital. I have friends who took off, we were all in youth group together. I have friends who snuck away and they left the covering of their parents' home under the rules they were given, and they're paralyzed from the neck down.
Yeah. Because
they took off doing a bunch of stuff, drinking with friends, doing the things that they thought, we'll just do all these things. We think this doesn't pertain to us. We're grown women. It does. What are we doing? What are we doing sneaking out of our Father's house like you started this with?
Right. Exactly.
And thank God he course corrects us to keep us from, sometimes he may need to paralyze us because he knows, you know what? I already know it's going to more temptation than you could handle to have a full body and be able to jump out windows and stuff. So I'm going to have to limit you. I'm going to allow limitations in your life because I know that it'll be more temptation than you can handle to be around all this. So I'm going to have to take this away. That's what he does. He loves you so much. He'll take things away. It's a gift. The gift you open is he's taking things away to keep you focused, because that would be more temptation than you could handle.
Yes. Well, isn't it interesting that many of the rabbis refer to the 10 commandments as the 10 gifts, and they're not seen in the negative context, but this is the commandments, or these are the gifts that keep your life fruitful and productive. It's a gift.
Wow.
And we always go to that negative, don't we?
Well, it's this is that alal. This is that or this is the galal. This is the camel loaded with gifts. I'm like, what is that? Because my brain, non-Hebraic brain, is thinking, what kind of gift? This is a gift that keeps on giving. No, I can't wait to return my love kind of gift. Right. No, thank you.
Exactly.
No, thank you. Yeah. Right. And he's saying this is a gift. My direction, my course corrections. I'm going to adjust your sight. He starts this minute. I'm going to adjust your sight. I've heard you, Deb, bring up so many verses. And one of the things that I am blessed with is that I grew up, and I know you have a similar background. We were in a church where we were taught to memorize the word.
Right.
When I was angry, and many of you have gone through this phase, coming into Torah, coming into his Hebraic thinking, I was angry. What, Father, I have studied and taught and teach and pastored and so much, I can't even remember not doing it. Why didn't you tell me before this? You know my heart. You know I wanted you. Why did I believe all these lies? This wasn't even true. And I mean, I've gone down that path and I've spoken to many of you. I know there's a few of you who are along with me. And he reminded me, and he reminds me every time today, I was listening to you spout verses off, when we can make those quick hyperlinks to other verses, it's because of, I rooted you in there because I knew that was going to be the ground that you would know my word. That's where you would best learn my word. That's where you would best grow. No different than any Babylon or captivity, or I had beautiful experiences. Now my heart has changed. I'm blessed at the path he chose for me.
Amen.
So please memorize. Please keep memorizing, because you and what version? I don't care. Pick one. Just memorize, because you want to make these hyperlinks that when you were saying something about take up your mat and walk, you went, oh, you should go, oh, I know this, because you're in his word.
Right. And when you study the Torah, if you've had a background in the New Testament and memorization and all of that, you immediately connect everything to Messiah.
Yes.
As I read in the Torah, people say, how are you finding that in there? I don't know. It's just that hyperlink. I like that terminology of what I've already known about the Messiah. So everything Messiah jumps out at me, and it's like, oh, yeah, of course, that's the Messiah. Oh, of course. And I believe that's what's going to happen when many of our brother Judah's eyes are open too, just like our eyes have been open to Torah. I mean, we've all been blind. I mean, let's get real. We've all been blind in one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have no right to feel superior or better than the next person because we've all had blind spots, and anybody that's driven a car knows what a blind spot is. You just don't see what's coming beside you. But we've all had those blind spots. We didn't know that was him standing beside us.
Mm-hmm.
Like Brother Judah doesn't know that it's the Messiah standing beside them, guiding them into all of this. Because when we go through these feast cycles, what do we see? We see him, the whole entire plan of redemption. And it always, and I've used this before as an illustration, but I can remember saying to my kids, what do I have to do? Draw you a picture? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So what does the Father do? In every chapter, he draws us pictures of, okay, and here, I want you to keep this holiday because one day you're going to realize this is about Messiah.
Yeah.
Passover is about Messiah. The first fruits is about Messiah. All of these things are pointing to the plan of redemption, all the way down to Sukkot. And we see that in the book of Revelation as well. So it's just like, yeah, it's all there. It's all there, but we've all had blind spots. And
Yeah.
he's just revealing all of our blind spots, you know? He's kind of that little, I've got a newer car now and it has that little warning sign if somebody's coming beside you, in the mirror. It just goes beep, 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 beep,
That's the Holy Spirit. That's what we're counting down to the days.
yeah, don't change lanes now,
Yeah.
because I'm here, I've got this.
Or you fall asleep and you start to go drift and it goes, and it starts, and you're like, oh, wait, I'm here.
Yeah.
It's a course correction.
It is a course
It's not
correction.
angry. It's not loathing you. Your car isn't loathing you. Your car doesn't hate you and calling you what a bad driver you are and shaming you.
Right. Yeah. Mine, I'm sure yours does too. It will even stop me if I'm going to make a wrong course. I was
If
backing
something's
out of
pulling out in front of me, sometimes it's swift and it could be a jolting experience.
You're right. It'll just slam on the brakes for you. And it's like, what? And I'll look and there'll be somebody walking behind me or, and it was like, oh my goodness. And that's a great picture of,
It is a great
how
picture.
the Holy Spirit protects us and guides us and course corrects us.
And that's what he's giving them as they leave this. He's telling them, I think, here it is. Stand up, Kumi, upright. Let me lift up your head. Lift up your head and look around. This is what I'm giving you. Whatever's bent you over, whatever's been the slavery, you have been indoctrinated as a slave in Egypt, the things that they told you who you were and who you weren't, all of that is coming off of you. And I'm changing the way you see things. I'm changing the way you're going to walk with your head up high. I'm going to cause you to take over things that you thought you could never do. In my power, you'll be able to do those things. And I'm going to this last part, he says, and 26:40 says, but if they confess their iniquity and that of their fathers in the treachery of that they've committed against me, and how they walked contrary to me, in return, I walked contrary to them and brought them into the land of their enemies. I course corrected them. Mm-hmm. And if at that time their uncircumcised heart becomes humbled, so that they accept the punishment or the course corrections for their iniquity, then I will remember my covenant with Jacob, and also my covenant with Isaac, and my covenant with Abraham. Do you hear, Charles? The God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Right. And I will remember the land, but the land will be deserted by them, and then and will enjoy its Shabbat while it lies desolate without them. And they will accept the punishments of their iniquity, because of they've rejected my ordinances, and their soul abhorred my statutes. Yet for all that, when they're in the land for their enemies, I will not reject them. nor will I hate them into their utter destruction and break my covenant with them. But I, Adonai their God, for their sake, I will remember the covenant of their ancestors, whom I brought out of the land of Egypt in the sight of the nations, that I might be their God. I am Adonai. Sister Kume, he is Adonai. He's remembering the covenants of your father's father, your grandmother, your 5 times great grandmother, those that have prayed for you. He's remember, and he
Yes.
will remember it for your generations. He will do it for
Amen.
them the same
Amen.
way he's did it for our ancestors.
I love this where you got to the point where I will remember my covenant with Jacob, I will remember my covenant with Isaac, and my covenant with Abraham. It's almost as if he's saying that if Jacob's covenant falls short, then
Mhm.
here comes Isaac's covenant. If Isaac's falls short, then here's the covenant of Abraham. But all of them together will cover you, because he never forgets a promise. He made each of these men promises, and none of them were perfect. When you read about their lives and some of the things that they got themselves into, none of them were perfect. They were
No.
ordinary people just like us.
Yes.
And he never forgot his promises to them.
No.
And that's a reminder that he will never forget his promise to you, Charlie.
Thank you. You
Or
too, Dr. Deb.
he won't. He's faithful.
Yeah.
He didn't forget his covenant with Charles.
Mm-mm.
He left a wonderful legacy.
This time goes by so quick. It's time for us to go. For those of you who normally stay with us for an after party, thank you for your grace. Today we'll not be having an after party. I am out of town and we're meeting with people here for after the funeral and after things. So we're doing some meetups. And so we're taking care of that. Again, continue to pray for Brenda, her physical health. She's healing, she's doing fantastic. She loves getting messages from you, but please don't expect messages back. She's not able at this time to be able to respond to all of it, but she loves you all dearly and appreciates your prayers. So continue to cover her. She will be back. And she knows how much you all love her so much. If you have not yet tried our 7-day free trial in the Ruta Cafe, I'm encouraging you. This is a time, as our world is falling apart, it's time for us to get serious, to get to know things. Let us partner with you to mentor you, to help teach you. How do you come up with all this stuff? Where'd you see Yeshua? And let us show you, let us teach you. We have courses at your own pace. We have women one-on-one who'd love to meet up with you. We have great times that we get to connect with you. And all of our instructors are available one-on-one. And we have powerful instructors that are willing to meet with you and teach you and hear from you. So be blessed, all of you. Kume, my sisters, Kume, get up, lift up your head. Thank you, Dr. Deb.
Yes.
Would you close us in prayer?
Oh, sure. Father God, we just come before your throne of grace and mercy. And in your loving kindness, we just seek shalom. As we
Yes.
approach this Erev Shabbat, Lord, we just pray for shalom for all of our sisters out there that are listening today. We ask that your peace just fill their households, fill their hearts, fill their dwelling places. Father, we just ask for a special shalom rest for our sweet sister Miriam, who
Yes.
who will be experiencing her first Shabbat that Charles has not, well, I guess it's her second, that he has not been there to give her the blessing uh, of his bride. And we know that she'll be missing his touch. But I just ask, Father, that you reach down with your loving kindness and your mercy and let her feel your hands on her face as you bless her. And Father, I just thank you for your blessing in all of this. We see your goodness, we see your loving kindness, and we see your mercy as we walk, as we stand upright before you, as we lift our heads. We see your glory and your mercy and your grace over our lives and your love for your people. Father, help us to walk the way you would have us to walk. Help us to walk in your righteousness. Help us to walk in your love. And we honor you and bless you this day in Yeshua's name. Amen.
Amen. Be blessed, ladies. Have a beautiful Shabbat. Can't wait to see you
Yeah.
next week.